All right, welcome back to another episode of Small Guys Podcast. Today we're doing the Iron Claw A24 movie. The true story of the inseparable Von Erich brothers who made history in an intensely competitive world of professional wrestling in the early 1980s. Has an 88% critic score, 94% audience score. It's 2 hours, 12 minutes. It's based off a true story. What did you guys think of this movie?
Electric.
Great movie.
It
What
would have
did
made my
you guys
top
know
10.
about it before seeing it?
The only thing I knew
Absolutely
was
nothing.
that they were a wrestling family.
Yeah,
That's all I knew. I didn't really know about the curse or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But
We're not big wrestling guys, too. I think we can all say that.
Yeah.
I mean
played
that's
the
one thing that I
WWE
want to make
games.
clear. Like growing up, I was never a fan of it. I understand, like as an adult, why people liked it. But I mean, when someone told me that it was fake, that's when I was not a fan.
Well, it's rehearsed.
Yeah,
It's rehearsed, you know?
It's faked. It's fake.
Yeah.
It's not
But,
fake, dude. Stop.
But I mean, I understand how it's entertaining. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think like, I mean, to see that. What year did this take place? 70s.
Early 80s mainly,
Early
but
80s.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy to see like those small venues and how they're packed. And I mean,
Right.
you look at it now; they do stadium tours with like WWE and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, even back then, these guys were touring at the start of it too. So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, clearly it's a huge thing now, but yeah, even back then, it's pretty big. We went to Japan,
Mhm.
Yeah.
to wrestle there too.
And I mean, it's kind of cool seeing like the startup of it all too, like the origin basically. Like, I mean, I don't know how many years before it was doing it. Obviously, because the dad did it when he was younger. But
Right.
it kind of that's when it became mainstream. Like when ESPN picked them up and stuff like that, and we're giving them coverage and stuff. So it's pretty cool to see the history of it.
Yeah, so I knew it was A24. Obviously, I knew Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White was in it, which got me excited to see it. I've heard of the Von Erich name before. I knew who Ric Flair was, obviously, but
Yeah.
besides that, yeah, I've been around wrestling growing up. Like my cousins really liked it. I had friends that liked it. I was never really into it. I was more of a Pokemon guy back then, and still now. But I don't even think I've ever played really the WWE games.
See,
They looked fun.
You fucking missed out because I went through
Yeah,
that
because you can
phase.
create your own character, right?
Yeah, dude, I went through that phase from I think like second grade to like fourth, maybe fifth, and then
Mhm.
even when I didn't watch it as much, we would play the fuck out of SmackDown vs. Raw, like 07,
remember playing the
06,
games.
09. Those games were fucking nuts, dude. Like we would like go to Blockbuster and rent them for the weekend and just play the shit out of them.
Right. Yeah. So, a couple things where I mean, we don't have to get into that yet. There's a couple things that really happened that wasn't in the movie.
Mhm.
I did see Zac Efron gain like 15 pounds to do this. He looked huge compared to the
He
rest of the
looked
guys.
massive.
I mean, Jeremy Allen White's big too. He got big for this movie as well.
Jeremy Allen White was funny, man, because his like proportions were off. Like you see him in
Right.
like just seeing him in The Bear and like all the other stuff that we've seen him in. He's just that like scrawny.
Well, dude, it's
rough-looking,
Shameless. How many times did we see him without a shirt on?
Yeah,
Scrawny,
But, I mean,
skinny.
in this one, especially that scene when he's on the college campus and he's just sitting there and his fucking shoulders are all puffed up. It's
Right.
hilarious.
Or the
That's
training
dedication,
montage.
though. You gotta
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Oh yeah,
Those upside down push-ups he was doing.
yeah. And I
Sick
wonder,
as fuck.
like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole steroid thing, but Zac Efron's been big since. I mean, as long as we
Baywatch, he's pretty big. But in this movie, he's bigger.
Did he do
For my
something
research.
to his jaw? Like, does he look like that for real, or was that for the movie?
So I read, okay, so people thought he got plastic surgery, but
Mhm.
apparently,
Probably like a mouthpiece.
from what I saw in an interview a while back, he was walking around in socks at his house, and he
Mhm.
tripped and fell and broke his jaw.
Oh,
And so when he got surgery to fix it, now it kind of looks like that.
gotcha.
I do want to say, I think this is Zac Efron's best performance by a mile for anything I've seen him in.
100%.
honestly.
I heard a little bit of stuff about him getting snubbed at the Golden Globes. I don't know if that's really. I mean, this movie did come out last year, so I don't know if it's. I don't know if he'll get an Oscar nomination. Which honestly,
I think he
it
deserves
is,
a
but
nom.
It came out so late. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure what that cutoff period is or stuff like that, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was like a limited release too, if I'm not wrong.
I don't think it was a limited release, saying that we
No.
saw it fucking months after, well, over a month of since it came out. But that's another thing too, is like we watched it so late that this for sure would have made my top 10 list for our end of the year wrap up if we had seen it in the
Yeah.
time
Oh, yeah.
frame.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were in a small theater. Obviously, it came out a couple days before Christmas, so it's been 3-4 weeks, and our theater was pretty full. I'd say for a Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
100%.
When I bought the tickets, there was we were the only seats.
really? Okay.
Yeah, and I bought them midday, so it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Just talk about the theater experience. I had these women next to me, and they were reacting to everything, even like a fake punch where you could tell it was fake in the wrestling ring. They'd go ooh ooh constantly. I was like whoa, but it made it enjoyable. I think they didn't really bother me. I just thought it was kind of funny in a movie that's really really
Yeah,
sad.
no, I could
So
hear them.
I did see on TikTok before seeing this movie that a lot of people were like crying after seeing it, and I
Mhm.
thought I'm like. And again, I knew nothing about the Von Erich family. I was like, how sad can this really be? Um, and there's a couple moments that got me. I mean, the end really got me, but there was a couple moments that really got me. Did you guys? I mean, how did you guys feel about it? Just being sad like that. Were you expecting that to be that sad?
I
So I
mean, I
mean,
kind
I
of
didn't.
expected it
Yeah,
only because of the shit that I had heard. And then I had told Aiden on the way in, he's like, what's this even about? And I go, it's a wrestling movie. And I go, I think everyone dies but Zac Efron. And he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
no. When I was reading, like looking at the cast of it and stuff like that, um, I saw that it had like the genres or like the themes. One of them said suicide, so I was like, "Oh God!" And I mean, like you said, I'm pretty sure you sent us that TikTok or whatever you saw. It was like crying, leaving the theater. So, and then I think I also read a tweet on like um, that final dialogue that Zac Efron has at the end when he's like, "We're your brothers." Like I saw that, and then it was like someone just breaking down crying.
Mhm.
So it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I was definitely shocked. I mean, we can kind of talk about it. The fact that like the beginning of the movie obviously shows like these brothers, their relationship together, the way that their dad treats them, which he doesn't give a shit about anything. Like they don't
He
want to
comes from
hear.
wrestling.
Yeah, he comes from wrestling. He's just like a hard head. You know, he's pushing his sons super hard. They really don't have any other like outlet or like any other career paths besides wrestling. That's all the dad wants. Even the brother, um, who is it, Mikey? Like he's
Mhm.
Mhm.
obviously not built up like the rest of those guys, and he still wants him like you'll get in the ring eventually, like stuff like that.
Yeah, he's kind
And
of the baby,
yeah, and he's like a good musician, so like
right?
it's just crazy how hard headed their dad is, and obviously it takes a toll on all of them emotionally. You can tell that throughout the movie. Um, you know, some of the, like all they know is their family. So like when Pam meets Kevin, you know, he can't even like have a conversation with her, and he's I don't even know how old he is at that point. Like, and that's the other thing that kind of threw me off on this movie is all these guys. Like, we know Zac Efron's old, we know Jeremy Allen White's old. Like, I'm looking at
Dude.
these guys; they're playing like what I assume are like 17-year-olds, but they look 30 plus to me,
Mhm.
and like they're running around like grown ass men, like little boys, and I don't know. It was kind
Yeah.
of
So I,
funny.
I was trying to figure out the age when watching it because Mike said that Kevin won his first like belt. I think at 17 or 16.
Mhm.
And they show Kevin winning one in 1979. I think that was the Texas belt, I want to say.
Yeah,
But yeah, I was like trying to guess how old they were. And then at one point we figure out near the end of the movie that Kevin's in his 40s, early 40s. So yeah, I
yeah,
don't
but that's
know.
after.
Right. In that point, we're in the 90s. So it's
Yeah, so
like,
I'm assuming he's like 20 something. He's got to be like
yeah,
in
he's
the
got to be in
30s.
his mid 20s. We see him lose his
Yeah,
virginity, right?
yeah,
So it's like, how old is he? I don't know. So
yeah.
that was hard to guess.
And even Pam
Um,
seems older too. So
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it starts off with his dad. They live in a trailer,
Mhm.
which they
mhm.
did in real life. His dad is the Iron Claw. He's the professional wrestler. He's becoming one to make money. Um, and then yeah, we figure out pretty soon into the movie that Kevin's brother, who was around the same age as him, died. Um, and
Jack.
yeah, Jack. And I can't remember if the movie really explained it too well.
they don't. They don't explain it at all. They just say like, yeah, you know, I lost my brother, so and so. And even when him and Pam are in like the diner talking about it, he doesn't mention like how he died. But then obviously that video that you look up after, they mentioned
Yeah.
that he was like in a puddle of like melted snow, and then he got electrocuted.
Electrocuted, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
then he drowned in
insane.
the
I don't even
snow.
know. I don't know how that happens, but
It's the
obviously, I mean,
curse.
one thing, yeah, I was gonna say we gotta mention that like that Von Erich last name is said to be cursed ever since, um, that first brother died. Or
Yeah.
I mean, technically it came back, but the grandmother, like, I don't know, has something to do with her and her last name.
And I like that Pam
It
didn't
shows
believe
it's
in
cursed.
curses or bad luck and stuff like that too. I like that aspect of it
Yeah,
as
but then I
well.
mean, and
Because
that's the
obviously
other
the
thing
rest of the
too
family
is,
did.
yeah, but it's not even that they're cursed. It's like all these things are preventable if you know. Like, I mean, obviously, like, I mean, I can spoil it now, but you're obviously listening to this if you've seen the movie. But when you see like Kevin he doesn't make any poor choices. He drinks. You never see him taking drugs. You never see him like drinking and driving like Carrie did on the motorcycle. After he wins like the heavyweight title or whatever, he's like hammering beers, and obviously he's like older than all of them. Oh, I guess Kevin's older. Kevin's the oldest.
Yeah,
So
Right.
second
Carrie's this,
oldest.
yeah, second
Now he's the
oldest for
oldest
the
brother.
one. Now he's
Yeah.
the oldest living brother, and I think Carrie's second.
We got to
And
assume they
Carrie's
all take steroids, right? I know they
Well,
show one of
they
the brothers doing
the
it.
other two brothers did for sure. Carrie and
yeah, but
fucking
not
David.
not Kevin.
Yeah, not Kevin. Kevin was straight edge the whole time.
Yeah,
Dude, and
and
at the
then,
beginning of the movie, I'm like, where's Jeremy Allen White? And they mentioned a fourth brother, so I'm like, oh, okay, it's him.
Mhm.
But like, I'm like, where the hell is he? I was
yeah, so
excited
he's
to see
going
him.
off to college, and I mean, I understand that you can say the other thing is cursed too during the Cold War. Like, who was it, Nixon or was that Reagan?
Was that Reagan?
Reagan, whatever. And they don't let the U.S. participate in the Summer Olympics that year. And
Which really
Jeremy,
sucks.
yeah, it does suck.
That
But I
reminds me of
mean,
COVID when they
yeah,
didn't do the Olympics that year.
that's how it
Because you
is.
got to think
And
these guys work for 4 years straight, more than that, to get into the Olympics, and it gets canceled. And
yeah,
like, you're in your prime athletic state, and you can't go to the
yeah.
Olympics. That
And
sucks.
then that thing, it sucks too because obviously, like, he's good, and they said he was going to win a gold medal, and then
Right.
now he can't participate because he's not going to be that good in 4 years, or
Right.
if he can even make it. So obviously,
Mhm.
he's not working anything. His dad wants him to start wrestling. He does that. Um, and
I
then
saw when they
Mikey,
shot that scene, it was like freezing cold outside, but it's supposed to be like in the movie is like the hottest day of the summer. And they're
which
out there
one?
like shirtless and stuff, and it's like
Oh, when they're
37
running track and
degrees.
stuff.
Yeah, no, when they're out there, when he goes and asks Carrie if he wants to start wrestling,
Oh,
or
they're doing
tells
the
him he
Oh
should.
post.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
When they're
funny.
setting up the post, yeah. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
but I mean, then we go into like, who's it? Mikey. Like Mikey's obviously not a wrestler. He's good at what he does. He's in a band doing all that stuff, and then Kevin pushes him. Obviously, the dad was pushing him too. Like, you need to get in the ring. We just lost David, which I believe is the other brother's name,
Yep.
Hmm.
and you know, and then he goes in the ring and like the first fight, he fucking dislocates his shoulder, which I don't know if that's true. Does he actually go into coma after surgery?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Oh, all
yeah,
right.
and his
So
temperature
yeah,
ran up to 105 in real life. I think in the movie they said
gotcha.
107. Not that
Yeah,
that really
yeah.
matters,
So I mean,
but
that
it's
happens
still
to
really
him.
high.
He commits suicide. And then even David, when we see him at Kevin's wedding, like obviously he's taking hardcore drugs, steroids, all this stuff, popping pills, and then Kevin sees him puking out blood in the toilet, and he doesn't even like do anything. He's like, "You should go to the hospital." He's like, "Nah, I'll be all right." All right,
Dude, well, see, I was gonna say Kevin literally kind of saw all three deaths coming in a way,
always.
because at the beginning he walks in and both the parents have this motto. You find out later with the phone call that he gives about Carrie. Like, he goes to talk to his mom at the beginning of the movie, and he's like, "Hey, like, I got to talk to you. Like, you got to tell Dad to go easier on Mikey. Like, he's the youngest one. Dad's pushing him too hard." And the mom literally goes, "That's like between him and your dad, or between you and your brother. Like, you got to
Yeah,
do
she's like,
that."
"Take it up with your brothers."
Yeah, and that's such a crazy thing to say. Like, you as a kid are coming to your parents are like, "Nope, sorry." And then so he says that about Mikey way in the beginning, and then at the wedding he sees fucking David puking up blood, and he's like, "I don't really want you to go to Japan." And they kind of laugh because it's like, haha, he's not gonna not go and attempt to win the world championship title, heavyweight world championship title. And then he dies in Japan. And then with Carrie, he sees him at the end of the night, and Carrie literally is like, "I'm gonna go for a quick ride," and he's like, "All right, man, like, be safe." And
Yeah,
then he gets in the accident, which sends him on this spiral.
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean that's the other thing too. Like, I honestly blame all of this on the dad.
One
Like
hundred
the dad
percent.
obviously brainwashed Kevin to where, you know, you got to be the best of the best. And it's not even like it's grief or jealousy is what like let Kevin just let him do what they want. Like he's obviously looking out for him, but he's not going to speak his mind because his dad's like fucking, you know, just straight
Yeah,
leveled.
it's
Well,
not
and he
Von
ranks him
Erich
too.
away.
He ranks him too,
Yeah,
which he did in real life.
that too. But I mean, then it's also the fact like he obviously knows that David should have 100% went to the hospital. Why would he not? But he couldn't tell his dad. You know, he's not gonna. He can't tell these guys what to do. They're all grown men.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it does suck. Like, I mean, you can look at it. Even the mom, when they were saying that the mom like used to, you know, their relationship was so different back when they first met. The dad used to play the clarinet. She used to paint all this stuff, and now she's just straight headed, just like he is. Like she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't cry. She doesn't like. She's tough as nails, just like the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, most parents would be like, "Yeah, I love my kids equally," but he ranks them. Now the rankings do change, as he mentions in the movie. But yeah, dude, I knew when he was upstairs at the beginning of the movie, like counting the money in his office, that his sons probably weren't getting the money they deserved.
Yeah.
We do figure that out later in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's not really addressed after he brings it up to his dad. But yeah, I was just like, he's definitely skipping them on money for sure. It's just this type of guy, I feel like.
Yeah, then it
So
comes full circle at the end when he's like, "You think your stay here was free?"
yeah,
All that shit. So,
and the training and everything.
but I mean, it is
Oh,
funny how
man.
like that stuff goes because, like I said, I don't know anything about wrestling. I know that it's staged, but the fact that his dad is in charge of like NWA, which is their division, whatever you want to call it, and you know he's put four brothers through it and
Right.
himself. So like, I
And
mean,
all
how
the
do you think?
touring and ESPN, like he's
Yeah,
making
like
money.
but
Mm-hmm.
also, like, then again, you have to be paying. If you're going to go up against Ric Flair and take that title, Ric Flair's not going to just hand it over. He's going to have to pay him even more money,
Mm-hmm.
you
Right.
know? So, like, I'm assuming that's how it is. Like, the highest bidder gets the title.
Well, and then they set up matches like where they rematch and shit like that, where they make even more money. Like that's
Mhm.
all,
Yeah,
that's
that's
how
how
that
business.
is. And I think that's why David ended up taking the reins from Kevin, just as the top tier guy, because David could talk that shit when he's in the ring, and he got
Yeah.
people hype and got people excited, and
Yeah,
that's
he
what
was
made
better
him
on the
more
mic.
popular. Right. And it didn't even matter about the fights, like who was stronger between him and Kevin. It was really just like who could really get under people's skin, who could get people to be
Yeah.
fans
Well,
of
because
them.
they even said at one point when, after David died, and then they're sitting on the porch and they're trying to figure out who's going to go to Japan and take up that title. He offers up Carrie as well because he goes, Carrie's hot right now, which is like a big thing. Like if you're hot in that world, then like it's a waste that like yeah, Kevin's been around forever, but his name isn't as hot as his brother's names.
Right. Yeah. What did you guys think of the reveal of David's death when Kevin goes to his house and talks to his dad? Because they don't show David dying. They don't show David dying.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
yeah, I agree because again, it wasn't anything crazy. It was just a ruptured spleen. It was something
Intestine.
internal, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, we still know that he's like going to die, like after seeing him throw up blood and not getting any
Hmm.
help. So like, you just
Well,
assume you're
plus
waiting for
two,
it.
I looked at my phone after the first death because I kind of had a feeling it was gonna be like a domino effect after that, and it was like I think like an hour 10 into the movie, and the whole first hour 10 is like what Aiden was saying in the beginning. It's just showing these brothers and how close they are, and you see all of them in a row dancing with what's her name? Blanking on her name.
Pam?
Pam. And
Yeah.
so it's the four of them and Pam, and they're all doing the line dance, and then it just fades in and out. And then right after it fades, it goes back to normal, and then boom, Kevin shows up at home, and that's when they break the news that David's dead. And that one was sudden, but what got me when it like really got sad was when Kevin went through the mail and saw the postcard, and it was like, "Fuck, dude!" Like, and he even said, like, by the time you get this, I'll be home by then, so it's kind of pointless. But obviously, we know what happened, so like, it's cool that he was able to get that message off, and then as a
Right.
viewer, put you in your feels for something that you didn't get to see but anticipated coming.
Yeah, like we didn't need to see it yet,
Hmm.
but we knew it was coming. And yeah, reading the letter, that was one of the scenes that got me. I don't know. It's just like you knew it was coming, but I didn't know when. I didn't think it was going to happen like when he was away from his family like that.
Hmm.
So for me, it like kind of came out of nowhere just because I wasn't anticipating it being that soon. So
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like at that point when David's passed away, or when he's dead, and then Kevin shows up, I think that's where we really get like peak Zac Efron, like performance in this role, everything like that, because that's when he goes on this downhill spiral of, you know, showing his depression and stuff like that, where he's depressed and he's scared. You know, obviously his brothers are his best friend, all he wants. When he met Pam, he's like, I want to live with my brothers my whole life. Like I want them to be right next to me. And she thought it was funny, but then she, you know, over the years realized like, wow, like these guys are, you know,
he was a kid.
a pair, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Best brother
so then,
moment though. Oh, sorry.
no, I'm just saying like, just giving Zac Efron his props basically, because I mean, even like just as it progresses, you know, like he's sitting there, he's depressed, he doesn't even want to go home like with his wife and kid, and he's sleeping up at the gym or wherever they are, like upstairs on the floor with like a blanket and no pillow. And, you know, he's just afraid. He even changed the last name of his son. And so it's not Von Erich, to, you know, kind of avoid the curse. And Pam thinks it's funny. But then Pam also kind of understands at the end. I feel like at that point, Pam gets it. Like, all right, like she wouldn't stand there with him and let him do it if she wasn't, you know, 100% against it.
Right, like if it was going to make him at ease about the whole situation.
Yeah.
Especially because I think when they do the name change, is that only after David dies, or is that point Mikey's dead too?
I don't think Mikey's dead yet.
Right, we're just at
Carrie
technically
had his accident.
we're at the 2 deaths.
Right. Or Carrie, Carrie had his accident by then.
But I was gonna say before we get into all the sad and depressing shit, my favorite is when they sneak out of the house and they go to that party, dude. That was awesome, and you get to see all of them together just drinking beers while they're cheering on Mikey. Like that was just like a heartfelt moment, to where that was like be a moment where it's like tears of joy, and like when they're all leaning in and they're just like, he's really fucking good, because that's how much they support their fucking brothers.
Yeah, and like you said, Brian, too, like that first hour 10, hitting you over the head about how their bond together, how important family is in this movie. You know, obviously they're, or at least Kevin, middle aged in his 20s, like doesn't want to leave his house, right? He loves spending time with his brothers and his family, and to the point where like they're all wrestling together. I love those scenes a lot when they get to wrestle together, because you could tell that's when the characters are at their happiest. So to see that like slowly ripped away from them is just so tragic to watch. But I think the movie had to be like that for the first half at least, just to really hit you over the head with that.
Like especially for viewers like us that don't know much about the Von Erich family, like you need to see that bond and you need to see them work together, because again, it is like that first hour 10 before the death of David. So I think they did a really good job with that. Also, while we're on the topic of them walking in the ring together, as soon as you heard Tom Sawyer fucking start up, you were like, "Here we go!" Like this is
dude,
fucking
the soundtrack
sick.
was so good in this movie.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, dude, you also got to give it to him. I don't know. I was gonna look at the director. I forgot. But it's not even that. Like the camera angles, like being an A24, like you know, is gonna be dark, which they did, and they also showed stuff that like not a lot of other movies would show. I guess you could say, especially a movie about, you know, this story and like wrestling and all that. It's obviously not a kids movie. It's rated R. But Sean Durkin, let's see what else he was known for. The Nest, Iron Claw, The Rental. I don't think I've seen any of these. So it's kind of like for a peak. It's like a debut, I guess you could call it, for like I guess you could say like a higher tiered movie.
Right.
But yeah, but no, the camera angles. Like one of my favorite transitions is when the dad flips the coin for Carrie or Kevin, and you know it's in the air, and you're waiting for him to land it, and then smack it on the back of his hand, and it automatically shows the shot from Carrie's legs up, and, you know, like he's in the ring already, going for the title fight, and then Kevin's behind him, hyping him up. So I thought that was good.
Which apparently they really did do a coin flip for it in real life, so it's kind of funny. That's something I would do. Let's flip a coin.
It's funny because not one of those guys talked back to the dad ever in the movie.
You see, and that's another reason I think the brothers are so bonded, because it's almost like a trauma bond. Because their dad is such like a man's man, and it's like you need to do this to like do things right. That there's 100%. No, obviously you see with Mikey, like Mikey wants to be in the band, like he's really good at music, but no, that there's no money in that. That's why the dad doesn't play clarinet anymore, and that's why like all the brothers banded together and they're like, fuck that, we're gonna sneak Mikey out of this house and we're gonna take him to that party and we're gonna have fun and let our little brother do what the fuck he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because there's no real excuse for him not to go, because he even said, like, it is a job, I'm getting paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I like that scene a lot too, for sure. So,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's where Kevin loses his virginity.
Yep. That was funny. On top of that, the scene in the shower right at the beginning, me and Aiden just audibly just went.
Oh, and was it David's beating off?
Yeah, David's in the shower, Mikey's banging on the door.
And then that also transitions into the scene of Kevin going to talk to the mom about talking about the dad needs to take it take it lighter on Mikey. And that's the other thing too, like you're watching, he's like, I got a shit, Davey. He's like, open the door. And then you see the door open to the mom's room, you're like, oh, he's gonna go shit in the mom's room. But no, it's like completely something else. So. I thought that was good. But no,
Yeah.
I mean, but it is crazy, like, because like you said, Pop, I mean, the beginning, the first half is like a hype up, building up, showing you this relationship. It builds the story great. I feel like I knew the entire story about everyone. There was nothing that I felt like I didn't know, besides, I guess, maybe that original brother dying. But all you know is he's dead and the family's cursed. So at this point, then you go ahead.
I was just going to say another cool, like, little brother bonding moment they had was obviously this is pre Mikey getting in the ring. But when they're in their training, they're all training in the gym, and you can see Mikey still in there with them, like, writing music. Like, I thought that was really fucking cool because, again, they are, like, trauma bonded like that. Like, they are there for each other, even though Mikey is, like, the odd one out, but they want him there. And again,
the other thing too is you don't see any of them have like outside relationships. Pam and Kevin are the only ones, and that's the first girl that ever even asked him out on a date, you know. And then you go, David obviously has no one. Carrie's obviously at college or wherever he's at, but you still don't see him talking to anyone on the field. You don't see him communicating with anyone else. Like they're not, even throughout their lives when Carrie moves back, none of them are hanging out with other friends besides Mikey. Mikey's in a band, you know, he's going to play at these gigs down at these colleges and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can tell like all they really have is each other.
Yeah, they pick Mikey up to go get burgers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he goes, no, we're not gonna get burgers. He goes, what about you, David? You eat a burger with me? He goes, I'll eat a burger with you, little brother. And then you see, you think like they're going to do work or something, and it's just them fucking tubing down the river with a thing of beer after they eat the burgers. Yeah. That was so sick.
Yeah.
That's the other like thing I want to mention too is we mentioned Mikey's death. We mentioned Mikey just goes off and kills himself, which is hard.
Yeah, well, and plus that's after he fucks up his shoulder, right? He goes into the coma.
Well, we skipped Carrie.
Well, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, so after David dies, we cut to now Carrie is the one that won the coin flip, wins the heavyweight world championship, finally gets the belt, and then like I said earlier, he talks to Kevin at the end, and Kevin was just like, "You look good out there. Like, are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm having trouble coming down." And you see him drink one beer, but you assume he had numerous that night because it is stated earlier that Carrie can really put him back. Carrie's like, "I think I'm going to go for a ride." And you hear the bike start up. And as soon as that bike started up, you're like, fuck, something's about to happen here. Like, something's definitely going to happen. And then A24, being A24, had that awesome shot where he's in the middle of the fucking road, but it's all blurry. Like, as if you're the one drunk driving, you know? Which we would don't condone here on Small Guys. But then it cuts, and he's in bed. Carrie wakes up, and he's getting out of bed. He's kind of slow, and you see a crutch, and you're like, all right, fuck something up. It's all good.
Real quick, just to make note is when you get that shot of him cruising, all you hear is the engine of the motorcycle, and it just gets louder and louder and louder, and he's just going, you know, and you see headlights start.
And again, you expect to see that crash, dude, and you don't. 100%. You don't, and you're like, okay, he made it out unscathed. Wakes up in the morning, crutches next to the bed, and you're like, oh man, I don't like this. Gets downstairs after he just snorted whatever pain pill, and he gets downstairs, and it just full shot. He's missing the bottom of his right leg, like from what you say, the shin down.
Yeah, dude, and the woman next to me goes,
yeah, dude, we could hear that one. We could hear her on that one.
And it's scary. It's dead silent. I saw it. So I saw it. I was like, oh, and then she jumped, and I was like, ah. I was like, she scared me. Just not even. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, am I missing something?
Well, so I thought when he grabbed his keys and left, I was like, well, that's it's Jeremy Allen White. He's the co-lead. Like, I'm like, it's almost too soon to kill him
Hmm.
off in this movie, because I'm like, here goes like the domino effect, like you mentioned earlier, Brian,
Yep.
where like this movie's just going to progressively get more sad. So it's like, how I'm like, they can't kill him. It's too early.
Yeah.
So when he got up and grabbed the crutches, I was like, oh no, he like lost something, like
I didn't even
foot,
put
a
it
leg.
together. I thought
I
maybe
figured it was
he
something
like
bad.
fucked something up and that was it. But no, I
Right.
did not expect. Again, they did a great thing of not showing you that crash, telling you anything
Yeah.
about it, and then they show you that shot of him now being an amputee. And it's like, holy fuck, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in real
Yeah, it
life
was
he
wild.
lost it 2 years after he won the belt.
Yeah, that's what it
But he
said.
lost the belt like 17 days later or
Yeah,
something.
But they
yeah, the
Like,
also
quickest
didn't make it
turnaround.
public that he lost his leg. Is that what
They
I
try to
heard in
hide it
that?
for a little bit.
Yeah,
they
so
had
he's
it for a
going out
while.
there, imagine like limping around. They're like, what the hell? And like, I don't know. I mean, I just
It
think it's
shows you how good
crazy.
he is,
It's
dude. He can
crazy
do
Hmm.
it
that you
without a
go
foot.
back. You go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and that was
I figured he was
also
done for sure.
when he because he gets. I was thinking the whole time like he's got to get a prosthetic, right? Like I understand it's like the '80s, but like they had a type of prosthetic, and when he gets it and he's like limping, dude, and he just puts his hands on his knees and audibly just yells "fuck," and I was like, "There's the Jeremy Allen White that we know and
Yeah, I
love."
was
Like
waiting
he
for
finally
it.
he didn't come out until after that accident. I feel like. That was like that's when you finally get to see the Chef Carmy or the fucking Lip Gallagher that you're used to.
Yeah.
And
But clearly he's not the same character from what he
no,
was
no,
before.
clearly he's not that good. And again, they go to church, they never say what type of church it is, but it's almost like assuming it's like a good Christian or Baptist boy that he
Being in
was, like
Texas.
that's gone.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so then what from there we
So
progress to
yeah, I mean, from there we obviously see that he's back in the ring, whatever. Um, that's when he's out, I believe,
yeah, because I think
or
he's
is he
training.
returning?
I think he's training at
He's
this
trying to,
point,
yeah,
and
he's like
that's
going
when
through
we see
rehab with Kevin.
Mikey. That's like when we see Mikey start getting in the ring finally. And then I think the shit with Mikey happens before he gets into the WWF.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, because again,
So
so Mikey has the shoulder injury, like his first match, ends up needing a standard procedure operation.
Yeah, it looked like he had a dislocated shoulder to me when it
Yeah, and
happened.
they were just going to repair it, but they had, I forget the syndrome's name. But yeah, he ended up spiking a fever of, they claim 107 in the movie, 105 in real life. But like Josh
mhm.
said, either way, that's very fucking high. And I think they said it was like that for like 20 minutes. And
Yeah, he was in a
defying all
coma.
odds, yeah, defying all odds after going in the coma, he lives. But he comes out, and you could just tell that he's like mentally slower. And even
Hmm.
like you see him trying to play the instruments, and like even that wasn't coming to him as naturally. And that's when he decides to take matters into his own hands and
And then
took
also
himself.
something too is when he's eating, he's remember his whole thing was he eats more than all those guys, no matter his size. And he's
Hmm.
at dinner and he can't even finish his food. So
Yeah,
like he's there and you just see him, he's just defeated.
Well, I think they interviewed Kevin in real life too, and he's just like, my brother was not the same after that
Yeah.
incident
yeah,
at
and
all.
I mean, again, they were not hyping it up, but like they're actors, and he was going more slower. It was almost like a Walt Jr. type of speech. But like when they did talk, they had you sent that video earlier, and they do have Mikey in it after the thing, and I mean he kind of talked normal, but you could tell there
Yeah,
was
the
like a little bit
video
of a
in real
delay.
life was a lot different than the movie.
Right, and in the movie with the acting again, it almost went as far as like a Walt Jr. type, like the way he talked for a
Yeah.
second. Like if he started stuttering, I would be like, "That's Walt Jr."
Yeah.
But that it had that level of slowness to it, to where you're like, "Oh, dude, like he's like mentally handicapped now," which again would
Yeah.
make sense. He did spike that high of a fever and slip into a coma, and like it takes a while for things to come back. Um,
Right.
so I was wondering if like that was a thing of like hit that I didn't know that he died, so I thought maybe it was just like, oh, now he's like mentally handicapped and that's it. Like that's his curse is now he can't function as the way that he was.
So
Uh,
Right.
and at that point in the movie too, like when I told you I read that like there's suicidal, thoughts or tendencies in this movie, I was like, all right, I'm assuming that he's gonna be the one to kill himself. And I got that right. I had no idea that, as we go on to Carrie, that Carrie was gonna do it as well.
yeah, me
But
neither. I figured
just
Carrie
to
would be something crazier.
yeah.
Which
So I mean, just to
Well,
finish off Mikey's story, obviously he comes out of a coma. He can't do his favorite things. He can't play music anymore. Um, he thought that he was just like a burden to everyone else around him, I guess, because they were
Yeah.
kind of treating him like a
What's he tell his
kid.
mom that he's not David, which is like heart wrenching.
Yeah, he's
He's
not
like, I'm
David.
scared, mom.
I like that conversation with his
Uh-huh.
mom.
Yeah,
It
And
was
again,
like
it
it was sad.
humanized her again. It did, because
Right.
after that talk that Kevin has with her about Mikey in the way beginning, now he can actually sit down and talk to his mom about it. Which, granted, I don't know if she really did anything, but it did humanize her a little more.
yeah. I mean, as each kid kind of drops, the mom starts opening up back into her, traditional ways. I guess starts breaking the chains that the dad has on her, I guess you could call it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, when Mikey goes out, he grabs a flashlight and writes a couple notes, I guess, and puts them on the thing like, I'll be watching from afar. I'm
Yeah, I'll
going
be in
to
a
a
better
better
place.
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like
Which is
that.
what the real note really said too.
Yeah, which is
Yeah, I
crazy
think the real
because
note said, "Mom and Dad, I'm sorry, I'll be watching," and that was it.
Yeah.
And then I think they said in the real life that he left other notes too, like for the brothers to read, but that
Right.
was the one that they pinpointed in the movie. But yeah, because again, so he's playing the instrument and he's not playing the way that he was, like he's playing guitar. And then the next scene is just him downing a bunch of pills, which in real life is sleeping pills, but to us, we didn't know what it was. And then wash it down with a beer. And then, like Aiden said, he just takes off with the flashlight and a sleeping bag, and that's like the last thing you see of him.
And then another great scene happens after that, and that's the mom. When she's putting on that black dress that
Oh
she wore to
yeah.
David's funeral.
It's hard to watch.
She's just sitting in her room and just staring at it. She's like, I can't put it on. Like, people are going to recognize it. Like, all this stuff. And Pam kind of talks her out of it. Which I couldn't imagine if Pam wasn't there. I mean, who knows what would happen to the mom. But, she talks her into, like, it's not about that. No one cares what you wear. It's about celebrating, so-and-so.
And dude, each of these funerals too, like the brothers are there, the remaining ones. It's like they're not really emotional, right? I mean, you can tell it's hitting them hard. But
they won't cry.
Yeah, right.
Because it was David's funeral where his dad says that, where they all have the sunglasses on, and he goes, "Take those sunglasses off. We're not hiding anything." And he goes, "No tears. Like, men don't cry about that." And you're like, "Holy shit, dude! Like,
crazy.
you raised your boys to be this close, and now you don't want them crying over the loss of their brother." But again, they're so into the church that they're like, it was God calling them home, and it's like, man, I get that, and that's what you need. But like, let these boys cry.
Yeah.
Right.
And then after Mikey's death is when you see him like talking to Pam, and Pam's like asking if he's gonna come home, and he's like, I don't know. Like, I really don't know if I'm gonna come
hug
home.
his kid.
Dude, Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin laying in David's bed too after David's funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah. No, they're really good at pulling the heartstrings.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I mean,
and now you're
thing too is how we didn't even I couldn't predict it. I didn't think that it was gonna take a turn like that. I mean, it's different if you knew the story. You're like, all right, you're anticipating for it. You're waiting, and then this. I mean, it hit me like a.
And if you know like a loved one or someone close in your life that took their lives from suicide, I am lucky I haven't, but I couldn't imagine watching it with that. I really couldn't. I mean, it got me, and I haven't known anyone to commit suicide like that close in my life. So I can't imagine a loved one and then watching this, like, it'd fuck me up. So,
Yeah, no, it's definitely sad.
I thought about that right after the movie. I'm like, holy shit! Like, can you imagine if you had to go through this in real life and then watch this? Because that'd be hard to watch, or even just lose a relative in general, a sibling. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Brutal. But yeah, so and then the movie progresses. I liked the scene a lot where Carrie came home for Christmas and got his dad that present. I don't know. It was like he's still trying to, get his dad's attention, get his love, and his dad wasn't really giving it back, and you could just tell that was kind of like the final straw for him. And he has that talk with Kevin over the phone, which I thought that scene was great too when he calls Kevin.
Well, and it's wild too, because before he comes home for Christmas, because at that point when he comes home for Christmas, that's like he's off doing the WWF. but we saw him and Kevin in the ring, and he's now got his prosthetic leg, and they're trying to fight, and he's pushing himself too hard, and Kevin is like telling him like, "Hey, dude, like I need you in the ring, but like we got to go slower." And that's when he slaps him in the face, and Kevin just like kicks him over, and he's like, "You want to like do this? Like get up." And I forget exactly what the conversation was, but he's talking to Carrie, and I think he's trying to tell Carrie to like, oh, he tells Carrie to do something different. Is that when they're on the phone? He tells him to do something different, and Carrie literally goes, "Why? So you can get all of Dad's attention?" Like, no way.
Yeah.
And again, at this point, they're like, you got to assume what, late 20s, early 30s, and they're still competing for their dad's love
Yeah,
like
I
that,
mean,
even
they're in their
after
30s at this
all the
point.
shit that they've been through, dude. That's fucking
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's sad. I mean, that they're obviously competitive as hell, and that's like, you know, their entire personalities. No matter how much they love each other, like everything's a competition. We obviously
Yeah, and
see
then
that bite them in the ass.
Which is like fine to like be that competitive, but it's crazy because again, how big these kids were and how well bonded they were, that they wouldn't just rise against their dad and
Yeah.
just be
Right.
like, "Fuck you, old man."
I mean, that's the thing
But
too.
they
They're
had that
probably
much respect
brainwashed
for
because
him.
they probably never went to school either. We don't see
It
them
would
any of
appear
them go
that
to
way.
school.
Like if Kevin was out in what they said that he toured at 17, like 17, we were finishing up high school.
Yeah.
Like, and if he was training and going on tour, that means he would have been training for years prior. Like you're probably right, Aiden. There's a good chance they didn't go to school and they
And
were
they're not
homeschooled.
smart. Like, I mean, obviously these people make them smarter, but if you go like the movie
Hmm.
makes them look smarter. But I mean, any of those interviews I watched today, like they're not like they weren't very bright.
Yeah, they talk like true Texas folk.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, living in an RV, you know, doing stuff like that, like they're not getting the best education.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then too, the movie kind of like jumps ahead a little bit. I think we're in the late 80s, early 90s, where like Kevin's kids are growing up a little bit more, and he has
Hmm.
two, third on the way. And you know, he goes to talks to his dad about the money. Now that Kevin is running the business for his dad, or owns it now.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and he tells his dad that he's considering like selling it because they're not making as much money anymore, and he wants to move his family to a house. Um, you know, they have a couple dogs. You know,
Hmm.
kids running around. So yeah, they can't stay in that apartment anymore. And that's the scene where Kevin's like, you know, I looked through the numbers and I just did not receive most of that money, which you figure at the beginning of the movie. So I like that they mentioned that because I would have figured it after the fact. Like I feel like he got gypped on money.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's been doing this for so long. It's like how can you not afford more than that little apartment?
Right.
Uh,
And I will say though, it was cool. I was afraid that it would go as far as Kevin not being in his family's lives, and I was worried about that, but it was nice like when he came home and then it just cuts and it's him waiting for his kids to get off the bus. And then he's making dinner, he's sitting at home, and that talk that him and Pam had on their first date about how she wanted her own practice and she wanted to be a vet and is that okay? And he's like, "Yeah, like we can be a superstar couple like with all the money and uh like fame in a way that they would have." And yes, so then you see him being like a stay-at-home dad and just running the business because we knew that he wasn't wrestling, but we knew that he was still in the wrestling world.
Right.
yeah. Yeah. No, and I mean that's kind of where we transition to him, like finally. Well, before that, what you just explained is when Kevin kind of gives up his depressive like state, like you know he kind of snaps
Hmm.
out of it, and you know he's living back at home with his family. He's becoming more of a father. He's not in the ring, so he's working the books, doing stuff like that, using his brain, going against his dad. First time we've ever seen him speak up against him was saying,
Hmm.
"Hey, like, where's all my money?" Obviously, he's maturing, and you know, you go and that's when we see that they're also that guy from ESPN or somewhere else is trying to buy him out. They want to,
Hmm.
you know, give him a lump sum of cash, buy this out. And the guy even offers him a job at the end, like, hey, or he can go in the ring, do whatever he wants. But that's when, you know, he stands up against his dad and his dad fires right back. Um, and then we don't really, I mean, that's about it. And then I'm not sure what happens after that, but whatever. He's at home. He gets a call in the middle of the night, early morning, and you know it's Carrie. Carrie's in I don't know where. I thought Carrie was at home, like he was
No,
with
I think
the
he said he
parents.
was in Dallas. Like we knew that he
Yeah,
was
in a
in
hotel.
Texas.
So it looked like he was in a hotel.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he's in the
And then
hotel. You know, he's basically going on about how he's obviously drunk, high, whatever. He's not in a good state, and he calls Kevin. Kevin's sitting on the floor, like knowing that something's wrong. Like he's obviously had two different situations where he could have prevented it, and now you really think he's going to prevent Carrie when he's talking him down, like saying, "Where you at? Tell me, I'll come get
Let's
you."
go get breakfast.
Yeah, let's go get breakfast in the morning. He's like, "No, like Carrie's dead." He's like, "I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna end it all, basically." And he's kind of not as panicked as you would think someone would be. And he doesn't immediately jump out like or try calling him back, calling the hotels, calling the cops. He calls the dad, and the dad's obviously up at the office, and he's like, "Yeah, you got to take it up with him." Like, like
Which is
he obviously doesn't
fucking
care.
crazy again.
And
You
especially after
call,
all that too, you would think the
yes,
dad would have a reality check, but he
yes.
still doesn't.
Especially,
It's
yes,
fucked.
one was a freak accident, one was natural causes, and then one was a suicide. So it's like now you have this other son on the line talking to a son that's
That he
absolutely
loves the
going
most.
through
He's
it.
number
Yeah,
one.
exactly. And he doesn't tell him to like go get him or anything. He says like look out for him because like Kevin knew he was gonna come home, and in real life it was just unfortunate timing because apparently Kevin called and the dad answered, but he was pouring concrete and was just like, "Hey, I'll call you back in a second." And in that time, before Kevin could get over and the dad could finish the job, is when they hear the gunshot. And then you find in the movie that's like Kevin pulls up, Carrie's car is there, doors wide open of his car. He runs to the house, front doors open. He's looking around, trying to like figure out where he's at, and then boom, you hear the shot, and there's Carrie behind the tree.
Yeah, with the pistol, he used
Yeah,
the pistol
the
he used to
Christmas
kill himself
present.
with is the gift that he gives to his dad when he was done with his first tour. So, I mean,
Whew.
in that like part, I mean, it's just crazy because you see Kevin obviously go there to find out where Carrie is to help him, and he's just a second late. He sees the door open, he sees his car door open, and me personally, I thought that he went in there, killed the dad, killed
I
the
was worried
mom,
about that too.
and then was like gonna shoot himself, and then we were
Hmm.
gonna watch it right there, and I was gonna be like, "Holy fuck!" Luckily, that's
Yeah.
not how it played out. He's looking around for Carrie. The dad's out doing whatever kind of work he is, and I don't even know if the dad saw Carrie at all. But he
No.
No,
obviously
I don't
just
think he
goes
did.
right in, he grabs a gun, sitting out by the tree, and then, when they first see each other, he just pulls the trigger.
Yep.
Then Kevin starts strangling his dad, pissed off that he didn't save him. I told you look out for him, all this stuff, and he doesn't. Like the dad still doesn't give a shit. Like he's not even like in shock when it happens.
Hmm.
I
Which is
think
kind of
from
like
the dad's perspective, the way he is, I think he thinks you're probably weak if you're willing to do something like that, like in his head,
That's
his
what
demented head.
exactly what
So
I was
that
thinking too,
makes
yeah,
sense.
especially because
yeah,
the suicide that happened, the first one was Mikey, and we knew that he was at the lowest ranking, and like he knew that his son Mikey wasn't going to be a wrestler, even though as much as they wanted him to, it wasn't for him. And so, and then again, like Josh said, Carrie was the favorite, so I'm assuming he didn't think Carrie would go through with something like that.
right, yeah, because he almost had like no remorse when he walked over there, and I'm glad Kevin kind of beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, that
That's
was
nice to
nice.
see. That was nice to see.
Dude, and
Um,
then you get that powerful ass scene right after, and it's
yeah,
just a boat. It's just a boat rowing, and you look, and it's Carrie, and you're like, "What's going
well, he
on?"
walks out first, dude, and he has his
Yeah, he's
both
got his
feet.
leg, and he jumps.
Just
Oh,
Yeah,
dude! And he gets in the boat, and he rows, and he go to the dock that they were tubing by at the beginning of the movie, and there is standing fucking David and Mikey, and they hug again, and they're there, and then he goes, "Now where's my big brother?" And then that's when it hits like, oh, he's talking about Jack. And again, I didn't expect him to be a child, but it does make sense because he died at 5 years old. And then they just meet this 5 year old kid who's technically their biggest brother that they never got to meet.
yeah,
yeah. So
that was
my
heartbreaking.
my absolutely only gripe with this movie, this would be a hot take for all I know. It's not life changing. It's not making this movie like changing my view on it, I guess you could say. But I think that if you take that scene where all the brothers are happy in heaven or doing all that stuff together from Kevin's perspective, it works.
So I think it is from Kevin's perspective.
So that's what I hope.
That's because again,
right.
it's him holding him, and I think that's
and
Kevin
and they're at the
imagining.
table.
And
Yeah,
he's got his
puts
head
Carrie-
down and
yeah,
he's
he-
imagining it.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
all right, you were hurting. Now you're with your brothers, and
100%.
that's like Kevin's favorite spot.
and
so,
again,
like,
that
he
would
just
make sense
imagines
why
the moment.
Jack is 5 years old because Kevin was the only one that really got to know
Kevin's
him.
the only one that's seen him.
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
All right. So that solidifies it. But I would
and
say
too,
me
like him
personally-
crossing the river, going to the other side. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of symbolism in that. Yeah.
And Carrie, I mean, he hasn't been there and doing all that, so it makes sense that Kevin's imagining it.
Right.
But if it was the other way, I wouldn't have been too much of a fan of it.
Or like you thought we actually had a glimpse into heaven.
Not even that, but it's just the fact that, like, as heart-wrenching and how emotional this movie is and how, like, legit it is in, like, mental health. We've seen 2 suicides at this point. You see that it's taking a toll on Kevin, and, like, really Kevin only is being affected by it, the mother as well. Dad, not so much. But it's like, all right, like, yeah, he was hurting. He didn't need help. He waited. He did what he had to do, and now he's in a better place. You know, like, it's obviously saying, like, suicide is the answer, which I'm 100% against because
Right.
he had all the help he
as we
could
are.
possibly get.
Yeah, I took it as because Kevin's in that scene, puts him down on the table and kind of puts his head down. I think that's him in his head coming to peace as to what's happened to his brothers, the closest people to him, and that he can rest knowing that they're happy wherever they're at. So I think that's the way I took it when watching the movie. So but I could see what you're saying, Eden, and I'm sure maybe some people might interpret that we did see like a glimpse into heaven, and I guess that's not out of the case, but I assume that's Kevin's feelings and what he was thinking in that moment. So,
I mean, it's not even
which
about
I
the
really
Eleven
like that
thing.
scene.
It's just about saying, like, all right, I guess, like, suicide was a solution.
Right,
Like,
right.
what he was feeling.
Yeah.
But now that we're talking about it, 100%, it's from Kevin's perspective.
Yep.
Which makes it better, and it allows Kevin to cope with it because, you know, obviously we haven't seen him cry, do anything like that until this point. It's the third brother, fourth brother that he's witnessed die, you know, that...
third brother, and then there was apparently a
died
fourth
away.
brother.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
Who was the real baby of the group.
Yeah.
But,
so,
I mean,
and he's kind of an outcast as well.
Hard, man. So, I mean, after that, like, he carries Carrie. Obviously, he's carrying Carrie onto the table. You mentioned all that. But then after that, do they show Carrie's funeral?
I don't believe so. I don't think they.
I think the funeral that we got was that glimpse of what he thought, and then he walks away, and he sells.
Does it start right in his living room?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the dining room table.
So. Yeah, and then it cuts to him selling it. The guy telling him like his dad invited him over and tried to scare him, and he's like, "I'm glad he didn't listen." They move from there. He comes in. The dad comes into the house, asks the wife what she's doing. Like, where's dinner? She didn't make any dinner because I'm not hungry. I'm painting. And you're like, all right, Queen, get back into what you love to do. Like, you lost all your kids, you might as well. And I think that about ends it. Other than what's that? What's at the end? Oh,
they move into their house.
No. Oh yeah, and then they just absolutely gut punch you because the movie wasn't sad enough. The movie, I tried to block it out. The movie wasn't sad enough. You cut to Pam and Kevin laying in bed, and the 2 kids come flying in, and you can see Pam's pregnant, so they're gonna have a third little boy or girl, and so now she's out gardening, and the boys are throwing a football, and Kevin's just sitting back. And he's like kind of crying because again, it's just his 2 sons fooling around. And I'm sure it reminds him of maybe him and Jack, because again, they're about that age. And the kids come up running. They're like, "Why are you crying, Dad?" And he kind of tells them, he's like, "Boys, you shouldn't see me like this." They're like, "What are you talking about? Like, everyone cries. Like, if a fucking child could get that, the hell was that dad thinking, dude?"
Yeah, and I'm glad because it kind of gave me a scare at that point too. Like, come on, man. Like, you're not about to.
Well, he didn't raise them like his dad raised him.
Yeah, fair. Good man.
Yeah, and that's what scared me. I thought he was raising them like that, like, oh, get back to playing football. But no, he's obviously level-headed, and he's telling his kids, like, you know, he's mentioning to him, like, you know, I used to be a brother once, which was insane. That's such a hard scene. And, you know, he's mentioning that, and he's just bawling his eyes out. And then they're like, well, we could be your brothers, Dad. And then at that point, like, you know, he just sits there. He's like, I love that. And then, you know, it just cuts to, like, them playing football again or them hugging it out, and it's just like, oh man, it's hard, man, because
Yeah, because I mean,
I mean,
dude, you
like I
got to
said,
think
this
like,
is like uh, movies that I've gotten emotional to. Marley and Me, like first time I saw Marley and Me, like I've only seen it once. I will never rewatch that movie again because I was young. I had a dog, and I literally like that was before I even put my first dog down,
Oh,
and like it was tough. And I mean, I'm lucky that that's the hardest thing that I've had to deal with so far in my life.
right.
But
right?
yeah, I mean, this movie, man, like at that point, it's fucking. I don't know. It's just hard because you see the relationship, you see how much they love each other. And I don't even have a brother. I have two sisters. I mean, you could
Mhm.
probably relate more because you guys both have brothers, but it makes you like obviously take a better look. I guess you could say at life. Like
I
I don't know,
will
just
admit
appreciate things different.
that, like, well, you guys know I'm not gonna air it out here, but like I could lose my brother at any given night. And after
Mhm.
watching that movie on the drive home, I texted him, dude, and I was like, "Yo, this is kind of gonna sound weird." And I just watched the Iron Claw. Go emotional roller coaster. Dude just kept losing his brothers. I go, "I fucking love you, man, and I'll see you soon." He texts me back like an hour later. He goes, "LOL, you're good. I heard that one was sad. Love you, bro." And I was like, "I'll
Yeah,
take it."
yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's sitting there like crying, and you're just like, he's probably thinking like, I'll never be able to play with my brothers again, or I'll never be able to see them again, and I'll never have this. And um, it was hard to watch because I do have a brother, and yeah, so it's like you imagine the loss that he went through. It's just like it's so hard. So that scene just really got me,
Mm.
and the theater was completely like quiet. Even when we walked out, it was like dead quiet
Dude, I
because
will
like what we
say,
just went through.
yeah, dude. The best thing though, we're sitting there. Hayden looks at me and goes, "This is the Notebook for men," and I go, "That's probably
Yeah,
the best way to describe it, bro."
it is.
And then
Yeah, I was
Siri
fine
looks at
with
us as soon as we get out of the theater and goes, "What the fuck did you guys bring me to?"
it.
Yeah. I told him on
But
the walk in, I go, I heard it's sad.
I mean, dude, that's this movie. Like, I really can't really sum up. I guess the one gripe I had I just mentioned, but like I think it's like a must see. Like I
Yeah,
don't. It doesn't even matter if you have siblings, if you like wrestling or anything. It's just a good story, and I feel like it just it levels people out. I think it's like
Yeah.
a reality check, and I love
Yeah.
movies that have that. Like I mean, I would never watch this movie a million times and go through that again. It's just a fact. Like it's a good story. You know, it's a true story, and I think I don't know. I just think it's better for more people to see it.
Well, and to the arc Kevin goes through because, like, at the end of the movie, he's cut ties with his dad. He fought his dad back with Carrie in front of Carrie. Um, he sold the business. He decided he picked his own family rather than his old family,
mhm.
right? And
Broke the curse, if
did
you
what's
will.
yeah, he did what's best for his family. And so I really do like the ending, and in a way, it is kind of a happy ending because they show in real life they ended up having 4 kids. I think they said like 13 grandchildren, and they all like live
Yeah,
there,
they
or
all
they
live
all like come
together.
visit all the time. Yeah, they showed the picture of them in real life. I thought that was all like really cool. So I it kind of ended on a slight good note as well as it could in a movie like this. So
Yeah, after
um,
what we just went through, after what we
yeah,
just went through, I would call that a happy ending.
100%.
And that's what he wanted. I mean, that's what he told Pam when they first met. Is that's he wants to get a big ranch, a big farm, and have his family live there. So
Yeah,
we
that's the
thought
other
maybe
thing.
he meant his actual family, his brothers and stuff, but no,
Hmm.
he meant
Yeah, but I mean, then
so
you look at it. What was the ending? They had like 12 grand, or they had
13.
six
13, I
kids,
think.
six
Yeah,
kids and
four
13
kids,
grandkids.
4 kids, 13. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
so I
Yep.
mean, and they all live on that ranch together. So I mean, obviously, you got to think: is Kevin still alive?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. So he goes, and I can't imagine just all that trauma that he went through, and like it makes sense that he will do anything for his family at this point. Like
Yeah, and
take
you
care of
gotta
them, make sure
imagine
that they're
too,
all
he's
like,
reliving it over and over again. Like this movie just came out in 2023, and then on top of that, there's been so many documentaries on them, and
yeah, they're a
like,
famous family,
yeah, and again, they all got inducted into the Hall of Fame for the WWE, which is cool
right?
that they were able to do that. And yeah, again, it's just that he got the happy ending, but I'm sure, again, I'm sure even all these years, it's a tough thing to deal with.
I watched an interview with Zach Efron. He was like talking about like the dramatization of like this movie, obviously for theaters and stuff like that. Which I mean, the story's not too far off, but he said that like he gave Kevin Von Erich like a private screening before they, hey, are you okay with this? Am I playing your guy right? And he's like, I love it. And he's like, the only thing that I want like everyone to know is how much I love my brothers. And I think they
Right.
do a great job at that.
They do.
And I mean,
And he
it's
looked
like,
just like him,
yeah,
Zac
he
Efron,
did.
in this movie at least. Yeah, he did.
100%.
I thought the
So
casting for David was the most perfect, to be honest. When seeing
Yeah.
David in
that one
real
was good
life,
too.
and then the
Yep.
actor that played him, you're like, all right, that one is like spot on.
Dude, the fact like Kevin wanted to win the world championship, he didn't get to. Kerry wanted to be an Olympian, he didn't get to. David almost won, the belt himself. He ended up passing. And then like even Mikey wanted to be a musician, he wasn't able to. So it's like it's really sad. I mean, you know what I mean? And obviously they all died really young. So yeah. I couldn't imagine watching it and them not being able to include Chris, which makes sense in the grand scheme of things why they weren't able to. First, his story is pretty similar to kind of Mike and what Carrie went through. It was also suicide. And then, like, he was the outcast. He was a baby. Just for timing, this movie's 2 hours and 12 minutes. It's like, it would have had to be even longer and just feel even more like a domino effect. So it makes sense why it wasn't included. But, like, it's even sadder in real life is what I'm saying. And that's crazy to think.
Yeah. No, 100%.
So, yeah, you guys want to get into scores?
Let's do it.
Go. I can start off if you want me to. I kind of set the bar here. As much as I love this movie and as much as I just went on a rant about how, everyone should see it, men or women, like it's not just a boys movie. It's not a, something like that. It's just a good story. And I think all the actors did a great job. I think the dad did a really good job too, because you fucking hate him the entire time you're watching this. So, I mean, obviously you look back behind it and that's good acting. If you hate a villain, good acting. But, I mean, yeah, these guys all got ripped for it. I read today that all the wrestling was real. Like Zac Efron actually learned all those moves and stuff like that, and all the other brothers. So that also like it gives it a little bit extra points. But yeah, I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster. I highly recommend it. I would 100% rewatch this movie. Probably just showing it to someone that has heard about it or something like that, or recommending it to someone. I don't think I'd just sit here and watch it myself. But yeah, I mean, great movie all in all. Glad we saw it. Wish we would have seen it a little bit sooner. I mean, I remember saying when it came out, like, we should watch this movie. But I think now, like, since we're getting into nominations and stuff like that, Oscars, I hope this doesn't get snubbed. I mean, a nomination's all right, but I think more people are going to hear about it and see it, so that's going to be good, especially after we release this episode.
Well, and we saw an A24 movie go crazy last year, so
yeah,
we
I
did.
mean, and it just cements that A24 just makes good movies. They produce good things, so yeah. I mean, all in all, I feel confident giving this I'm going to go 95. 95 out of 100. It's not a perfect movie for me just because it's emotional. I mean, it's not like, it's not the movies that I personally go to the theaters to watch, but all in all, it's a great movie. 95.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm right around there at a 93 out of 100. This was good. This is a really good movie. Again, all I knew was that it was a wrestling movie, and I knew Zac Efron and my boy Jeremy Allen White was going to be in it, and I was like, how bad could it be? Pleasantly surprised when I saw my boy from Mindhunter in it, and I didn't know that he lost all that weight. I was very happy for him. He's going to have to bulk up though because they're coming back for season 3 of that. But it's just like I said earlier, you spend that whole first hour 10 getting this story, this epic story of these brothers and how much they love each other and how much they kick ass in the ring, and we don't really have that much knowledge on wrestling, and the knowledge that I do have and probably you guys comes from like the fucking early 2000s. Like we don't know all the stuff from the past. And so as a viewer, you get this hour 10 story and you just know, like we knew that it was sad, and the second that we saw David's death, dude, it is just, if we keep saying it, it was just a domino effect from there. And it just kept going and going and going, and you didn't know how it was going to get any worse, and it just kept getting worse. And it was just, it's great that a movie can do that, you know. And then like we said, as far as happy endings go, like we got that, we got to see that final picture of the Von Erichs and where they're at now, and that was awesome to see. And yeah, just go out there and see this movie. Like, you don't even really have to like wrestling. If you just like good fucking movies, get your ass in the seat while it's in theaters. Because again, that was an experience. The second Tom Sawyer hit, we saw them walk out, fucking electric.
Yeah, it was. It's crazy to think. Zac Efron started with High School Musical and got all the way here, and he did like a lot of comedies too, like Dirty Grandpa and Baywatch and all those movies as well. So to see him do a movie like this, I think that cements him being a really good actor, and it almost reminds me too of like Adam Sandler or a Robert Patterson, who are in these like goofy movies and then do something in a serious role where it's like, damn, they're a really good actor. Because I feel like that's what Zac Efron did. I think this by far is the best thing he's done, like performance wise. Obviously, Jeremy Allen White's just a good ass actor. From what we've seen in like Shameless and The Bear, whether he's like Lip or Carmy or Carrie, this guy is just fucking good at what he does, and he deserves to be in these big roles because he's just excellent. So yeah, when I heard they were in it, I was really excited, and I knew really nothing about it. I didn't even know really it was about wrestling. Honestly, when I went and saw it, so and I'm not a huge wrestling fan, and the fact that this movie got me, I forgot to even check my phone or anything, and I had a woman next to me, expressing numerous thoughts throughout the movie constantly, and it didn't bother me at all, where usually it probably would. So I think that really just proves how great it is. And it's funny, I told Sydney about it, and she really wants to see it. And she's like, "Okay, when can we go see it?" And it's such a good movie. I wouldn't mind seeing it again, but it takes such a fucking toll watching it that it's like it's hard for me to be like, "Yeah, let's go see it again," just because it's so sad. But I do really appreciate it, and I would rewatch it and recommend it to someone. So I'm gonna go with the '94. I really liked it a lot. I think Lily James did great too as Pam. So, no one did bad. No one. I thought all
No,
the
and that's the thing
performances were
too is I
amazing.
want to mention like obviously we see Zac Efron making a comeback. Not even that he fell off, but I mean we saw him in Greatest Beer Run. He was in Greatest Showman, which I'm surprised he didn't pick up a shit ton of traction after that. But I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like this one now he's gonna go and like, all right, you can act, and they're gonna go and start putting him in other things now that he's getting older. Especially Jeremy Allen White. I mean, we really only know him from TV shows. Is this his movie debut?
He might have been in something else
Well,
smaller.
Maybe.
he was in movie 43. He was the one that was
Yeah.
dating the broom.
Yeah.
But do
That
we
was my
count
first ever
His
introduction to
mom.
him.
Yeah.
yeah. But
That's
then
a
we
good point.
go, but I mean, this is like a legit serious role, he's acting in, and I think he does a great job. So I think that this is going to open a lot of doors for all these guys. I think we got to give props to David as well. I think David's character
He
was like,
fucking killed it, dude.
yeah, he was fucking going off. And he looks so much like, uh, he kind of looked like Austin Butler at
Dude,
some
I was
He
point.
thinking
did.
that at
And
first.
that's what I was like, and I was fucking looking at him. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I haven't even seen
I think he's
Elvis.
British in
So
real life too.
yeah,
Ew.
and
Yeah.
then I also thought he was like a Skarsgård for a minute because he had that like face, and I was
Mhm.
like, But I'm looking at him on here, and I'm not nothing.
At
I
first
see.
glance, too, he kind of looked like Jack from Four Brothers. I always forget that actor's name. But, like, it was just
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a blend of Austin Butler and Jack from Four
yeah,
Brothers.
he looked like a bunch of people, and that's the thing. He looked like veteran. Like he was delivering his lines good. Like
Mhm.
not anytime any of them were on scene, besides kind of Zac Efron. But I think that's the point of his guy because he can't really speak.
He's shy.
Yeah, he's shy. So, but all in all, I mean, good ass cast. It's kind of crazy how like I don't know. I mean, it just seems like a hard movie to make. And they did get a job.
Yeah, for the most part, obviously with it being based off a true story, they stuck to, the whole story.
Yeah.
So and I think this will go down as one of the better sports movies, because technically that's what it is. So
Considered a biopic.
yeah, biopic drama.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
how is it not a sports movie? It has to be. I think that's the third genre on Rotten Tomatoes, at least, is sports. So it's wrestling. But yeah,
Nice.
it's gonna get Moneyball run for its money. Moneyball's the best though. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening. That was our the Iron Claw review. I think we're gonna do Whiplash next week. I saw this on Netflix.
Ooh,
I own
nice.
it, but yeah, that's a
I own
really
it
good
too.
movie.
One of the guys at work had a free disc, and he texted me the other night. He's like, "Hey, it's sealed. Do you want it?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah."
You just watched it for the first time, right? Recently?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Damn.
probably been like a month, but I did
Yeah, I
watch
watched
it.
it when it was on Amazon, like I think 4 months ago now. Really good. I'm
Yeah.
excited to do that.
No, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I don't even need to rewatch it. I remember every fucking part of that movie.
I'm looking forward to rewatching it. I saw it in theaters originally, so I'm really excited to rewatch it again. Yeah, I think I've seen it twice, so yeah. Little flex
Appreciate
there.
you guys taking a listen to this pod. If you haven't seen this movie, don't know what the hell you're doing, go watch it. But yeah, we'll catch you next week for Whiplash.
Yep. See you,
Don't
boys.
forget to like, comment, subscribe. Join our Discord. Discord's popping. We got like what are we at now? Like 9,800 people in there.
Recommending movies constantly.
They just
busy.
keep sending us money. Feel free to join in on that.
Yeah. Live on Twitch.
Brian, you don't say love you guys anymore at the end of these.
Sure I do.
Because no one ever says it back?
Well, I say it. I say, good night, guys. I love you.
Oh, all right.
And then I say,
all right, well, I'll see you guys later.
All right, love you guys.
Peace out.